One of the most frustrating things about Hollywood these days is that most of the big studios are so creatively bankrupt that they can't even seem to come up with one original idea. Instead, they constantly try to squeeze out any money they can from existing IPs that were once successful without even putting in a minimum effort to respectfully revive them. And I suppose that's how we got the 2025 version of I Know What You Did Last Summer, a soft reboot slash sequel of sorts to the successful horror movies with the same name from the late 90s. And since I've already seen this movie, I can confirm that not only is this new movie a complete disaster, it may very well be one of the worst movies of 2025 and perhaps even one of the worst horror movies of all time. I Know What You Did Last Summer has never been considered the most prestigious franchise in the history of Hollywood, but for somewhat competently made by-the-numbers B-movie slasher films of their time, they had a certain charm to them, and I've always considered them a cross between comfort food and a guilty pleasure. And during the late 90s, the first and second movies of this series, which saw theatrical releases, did accomplish what they ultimately set out to do, even if there was nothing particularly spectacular about them. Part of what helped those movies succeed back in the day is that they featured a likable cast of fluffy actors in roles that were quite suitable for their specific set of, acting skills? Jennifer Love Hewitt had this likable girl-next-door vibe that people were familiar with from her TV show Party of Five. Sarah Michelle Gellar was just getting started in her Buffy TV role around that time too, so doing something spooky was right up her alley. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Ryan Phillippe were both considered rising stars at the time, and Brandy, who appeared in the second movie, already had her TV and music career too. But while those original 90s movies may have resonated with 90s audiences, and over the years have become these type of peak 90s time capsules, recreating that same type of atmosphere in 2025 was always going to be a challenge, both when it came to bringing new cast members into the fold, and also utilizing the legacy cast as well. And since Hollywood has a tendency to fumble these exact type of franchise revivals, my expectations from this new movie were pretty low, but foolishly, I still thought that in the hands of a half-decent writer and half-decent director, there was potentially a way to make this movie at least somewhat serviceable enough as a generic slasher movie. And I say foolishly because prior to its release, I hadn't realized that the person that wrote and directed this new movie was none other than Jennifer Kaytin Robinson, whose main claim to fame was that she helped Taika Waititi write Thor: Love and Thunder. And of course, this was a huge red flag. In any case, I've already seen this movie and I'm about to dive in, but before we begin, please make sure to like and subscribe. I work very hard on my reviews, and your support would be greatly appreciated.
Do it.
I Know What You Did Last Summer starts off as something of a carbon copy of the original movie, but in this case, we have a group of 5 teenagers before college, and not just 4. Really innovative stuff, huh? In any case, there's 2 forgettable couples that are involved romantically, and then one rather butchy friend who reluctantly joins them. As they're driving home on a July 4th weekend and doing stupid things on the road of a rocky area, they accidentally cause a truck to fall off a cliff and then indirectly lead to its driver's death. One of the teens calls his father, who just so happens to be a shady real estate developer with strong ties to the police, and the teens are then told that the matter would be taken care of, and they just needed to keep their mouths shut and leave the area. Like in the original movie, they leave the scene of the crime, and then we jump forward a year to see what they're all doing. One of the girls, who I suppose is supposed to be the main girl, although I can't even remember her name, likes cheating on her boyfriend with girls she meets at public bathrooms, which is why she hooks up with a podcaster inside an airport toilet. Now, I know how that sounds, but believe me when I tell you, this actually does happen in the movie. Then, the cheating girl's supportive boyfriend picks her up in his car, and the podcaster she just hooked up with joins them for the ride. And in case you didn't understand the male-bashing sentiment here, the podcaster then tells the boyfriend that although she's only into women, she would consider hooking up with him because he's such a beta. Then it turns out that the other girl from earlier broke up with her rich boyfriend because he drank too much, but now she was going to marry a different dude who also drank too much. As the movie progresses, people start getting killed off by a dangerous fisherman slasher, just like in the original movie, causing panic in the town and amongst the teens. At some point, the toilet bowl hookup girl asks Jennifer Love Hewitt for help, but she doesn't want to help her, so then Hewitt's now loser ex-husband Freddie Prinze Jr. shows up at their home and tells Jennifer Love Hewitt not to help her. Now, if you're worried that what I said now doesn't make any logical sense, It's fine, it really doesn't. Throughout the movie, more and more people get killed, leading up to what has to be one of the worst third acts of a movie that I've ever seen. Now, I realize some of you may want to go watch this movie in the theater, and that's fine, but I'm about to enter spoiler territory here, so if that's an issue, perhaps now is the time to stop watching this review. And just to be clear, I plan to spoil everything, so please be warned. By the end of the movie, both boyfriends, the shady real estate developer, and the podcaster are killed by the fisherman slasher, but then there's a surprise double twist. There were actually apparently 2 fisherman slashers throughout the movie, but we didn't know it. One was the butchie girl, who was killing her childhood friends, and the reason she was doing this is because the person who they accidentally killed a year earlier was actually her boyfriend. And if you're wondering why she didn't say anything on the night that they accidentally led to her boyfriend's death, her explanation for this was she didn't notice it was him. So then Freddie Prinze Jr. shoots and kills the butchie girl even though he saw himself as a father figure to her. And in another surprise twist, it turns out that Freddie Prinze Jr. was actually the second killer, helping the butchie girl because he didn't like the shady real estate developer and the gentrification of his town.
What?
Also, Freddie was worried that people didn't remember that his friends were killed back in the day, so he wanted to kill people so that they would remember?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Man, talk about taking a movie and driving it off a cliff. So in case you haven't noticed, a character that was presented as a hardworking and even chivalrous guy in the first 2 original movies is basically the main bad guy here for some reason. And then he also tries to kill Jennifer Love Hewitt. Yes, the same Jennifer Love Hewitt who we spent 2 movies protecting in the past because now the patriarchy is bad or something. Then the movie ends and it turns out that all 3 girls have survived, including the butchie killer girl, and in a post-credit scene, Jennifer Love Hewitt visits Brandy and tells her that there's a new threat that they have to deal with, and then the movie ends. Now, I'm about to be pretty blunt here when I say that writer/director/activist Jennifer Kaytin Robinson is everything that's wrong with Hollywood these days. She's already failed with Thor: Love and Thunder, so why was she even given another franchise to ruin? I mean, talk about failing upwards, and I realize that I Know What You Did Last Summer is not really the most important IP in the world, but who's to say what project Hollywood will give Robinson next? And it's not just her intolerable agenda peddling that was wrong with the movie. She's pretty much bad at everything. Her screenplay is all over the place, with characters just randomly doing things with no logical explanation whatsoever. Like, she doesn't even understand the very basics of screenwriting, and in that case, she shouldn't be writing anything at all. And it's not like she brings anything to the table beyond that. The horror scenes in this movie are mostly boring and unimaginative. The pacing of the movie is completely off, and it's also not like she manages to get any good performances from any of the actors either. And yeah, I know that this new cast makes the original cast look like Shakespearean actors, but still. And the use of legacy characters here is so embarrassing and dumb. Jennifer Love Hewitt is one of the biggest member berries of all time, and I'm not just saying that because she's a bit more, plump than we remember her. Freddie Prinze Jr. is an absolute joke, giving what is likely the worst performance of his career, and it's not like he was ever considered Laurence Olivier or anything. The only tolerable performances in this movie are perhaps 2 very small cameos. The first one is when Sarah Michelle Gellar appears in a dream sequence, and I gotta tell you, that woman has really been taking good care of herself, so props to her for that. And seeing Brandy at the end credit scene was kind of entertaining too, but basically out of the movie's 1 hour and 55-minute runtime, there were only about 3 minutes which didn't completely suck. Otherwise, this movie is absolutely awful, and if I had to give it a score, I suppose I would give it a 10 out of 100. But on the bright side, if you want to keep getting movie reviews from an independent movie reviewer like myself, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it would really help my channel. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.